This is Radar for On the Radar Entertainment Blog coming at you again with movie reviews and observations number 178. Pretty close to back to full schedule of 7 movies. The first 2 movies I watched were movies that I had gotten previously but didn't have time to watch and I had to return them. First one I watched was Last Survivors with Drew Van Acker, Stephen Moyer, and Alicia Silverstone. Stephen Moyer, I know him from being the father on The Gifted and a scattered amount of movies here and there. So he's more of like a not so famous person. And Alicia Silverstone, she's been around. Now I said to myself, like, okay, another post-apocalyptic movie where the world is coming to an end and a father has to go in the wild and take care of his son. And always questions go, does this guy have military training? Does he have survival skills? Can he cook and fend for himself? Does he have any medical skills? Those are all different things that I'm saying to myself, like, what, is possible with you knowing, like, what the guy's skills are because they have a bunker and they got all this food saved up and they have all these skills and weapons and safety places put in, like, in case something happens. Like, I always wonder if it was real, like if it happens in real life, how these people get those skills when they were just a regular person. And again, barely 90-something minutes, so it's a watchable movie, but it takes a real huge plot twist in the movie when we meet Silverstone, and it throws the movie all on top of its head, and then it turns into a boring soap opera drama. That's what happens to it. It just goes off the rails, in my opinion, even with the plot twist. And yeah, the second half of the movie was not that great. Then I watched 13 Minutes, where Trace Atkins, who was in that Monarch show that I had just watched on Fox, where he thinks he's an actor. Peter Facinelli, he was the weatherman in this movie, and he was in so many different things before, Supergirl and SWAT, just everywhere. Anne Heche is one of her last films. Rest in peace, I know from her. Amy Smart was just coming off playing the mother in Stargirl, and she's been in a lot of stuff. And Paz Vega has been around the block before. One of the workers on the farm, I saw him in a TV show. So there's a lot of actors in this that I've seen before in this movie. And again, 140-something minutes. It's about the amount of time it takes to get to a shelter before the largest tornado on record ravages the town. Some people are like, nah, we've been here before. I don't believe you. Then it's unbelievable that they don't tell you that everyone survived, but it looks like everyone survives in the movie, miraculously and stuff. And it was like they had to have the token. There was a couple that came from Mexico or whatever, and they didn't have paper. They had Trace Atkins and Anne Heche's son is gay, but he has a relationship with one of the workers who's undocumented. They have the single mother whose daughter is pregnant, but then babysits for the local weatherman. And the local weatherman and his wife, who's played by Amy Smart, is Facinelli Smart. Their daughter's like death. They got a guy who owns the hotel. Then the single mother, she works at a mechanic shop, and the girl works at a salon, and there's all these different things that they're all interconnected in this small little town and everything like that. That it just was not the world's greatest writing and not greatly put together. But maybe that happens because getting a country music singer like Trace Atkins and Facinelli, Anne Heche, and Amy Smart, to name some, may have taken away all the budget to make this movie. And someone was watching the movie with me. It also was like, it just didn't look like real storm clouds. Like it wasn't, that accurate of what it looked like. But it was okay. It's not horrible. There's a reason why the Skokie Public Library doesn't have some of these movies, because they're not a blockbuster, amazing movies to have. Then I watched Mommy Mafia, because again, certain days of the week with my schedule, I don't have time to sit through a 2-hour movie, and I don't want to watch all the 80-minute movies because some Fridays I'll have a chance to do that. So this movie is Toni Collette, always plays like a woman who's like afraid or scared and not sure of herself. She's always like freaking out and sometimes neurotic, and it's just like, help me, help me, help me. I'm capable, blah, blah, blah. Like she's scared. It's just like, this was perfectly for her because she continues to do this. And her best friend is this overly top black lawyer lady. Okay, whatever. But it was a little bit over the top. So the plot is, she moved when she was a little kid because her father died. Never knew her father died. and her grandfather supposedly died, and they were trying to make her go to her grandfather's funeral. And she's like, I don't know, I have to go to work. But her coworkers and her boss don't appreciate her. They treat her like crap. Her husband treats her like crap and cheats on her with their child's like social worker or whatever in the school. They send their son off to college, whatever it is. So she's like, okay, I guess I'll go. And she's thinking it's just going to be a funeral, finding herself, getting laid, all this other stuff. And it turns out that she has to be taking over her grandfather's mafia, and there's an ongoing feud. And there's people trying to kill everyone, and they're trying to kill her, and she survived in a stupid comedy type of movie where it's like by accident she survives or kills the other person. She has a relationship with a guy, and it turns out that he's not, really who she thinks, and vice versa. And they kidnap her ex-husband and son because her ex-husband is stupid, and she's got a cousin who's weird that wants to take the throne. There's a person who runs the company that actually knows what she's doing. So yeah, it's again a really dumb, stupid movie. But it's still watchable, even if it's outrageously stupid, and there's a lot of some gore and some blood in the movie as well, like body parts and everything, so it wasn't bad, it just wasn't great. Then I watched The Menu, which, Mommy Mafia looks like that. I watched The Menu. And Ralph Fiennes, whatever, we know him from Harry Potter. He's been in a lot of movies. Anna Taylor-Joy has been in a lot of things. And Nicholas Hoult, I like him because he played Beast in the prequels of X-Men, and he's now going to be Superman. Paul Adelstein, who's eating dinner with this restaurant critic, I've seen him. The lady who's like the assistant, I've seen her. Some of the chefs I've seen before. The old couple, I think I've seen them before. And I recognize the three quote-unquote money jerk bags, like they work for a company, like, who we work for? We work for this guy, and he helps fund you. And I've seen these actors in scattered things, like one was in The Resident. And then obviously John Leguizamo's at a dinner table with a girl, and he's supposedly a famous actor, things like that. And supposedly it's supposed to be like how science is involved with making food perfect, and you're not there to eat or, overwhelm yourself. It's perfectly curated, and it's kind of poking fun at certain ways that chefs are and how food is made and all this other stuff. Nicholas Holt's like a food critic, but he's not really know how to cook and everything. And when Liver put a horror film on here, I'm like, oh, it's not going to be some boring drama where they go out and eat dinner. It's going to be a horror film where, I'm just going to tell you this, it's not a spoiler. In every horror film, either everyone dies or some people survive, so things are going to happen. And literally crap goes down in that night, and nothing goes the way you think it's going to go. A little disappointing about how Nicholas Holt's character, in the movie, and how everything went in this movie. But I'm conflicted. When I watched it, I thought, man, this is really dumb how it ends and how certain thing happens. But then I could take appreciation a couple days later and go, okay, cool. I can understand where they were going with this movie. Thought it was interesting enough. It wasn't too long. It was a really good cast of people in this movie where I recognized people's faces more than names, and I remember them from A, B, C, and D. I thought that was good. And I thought that the main guy, Ralph, Fiennes did a really good job. It wasn't, I'm definitely going to tell you, I don't hate it and I don't love it. I kind of feel like I enjoyed it and I liked watching it, but I don't know if it's like really my favorite movie, or maybe for me, I would just say you should watch it. Get your own opinion. The last two movies I 100% I would watch again. So I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Similar to my take last week of Shazam number 2, is that the second movie for Guardians, because this movie is, 149 minutes. So that's like 2 hours and like 20-something minutes. And the Shazam movie was also long, but I was conflicted because I'm a DC comic book and cartoon guy. I didn't read many Marvel books, comic books growing up, but I read certain ones, and I was a fan of Star-Lord and the Galaxy because they're kind of weird and interesting. I've been told a lot of times I'm weird, I'm odd, I'm a dork, all these other things, and they're like the losers of the world. And it's got some comedy to it like Shazam does, like Ant-Man franchise does. So you take that and knowing that, what it is. And I always like Star-Lord's character, but also Chris Pratt. I liked him on Parks and Rec, and I liked him in a lot of other things before this movie. And Dave Bautista does a very good job of playing Drax. You know, this Karen Gillan does a great job of playing Gamora, another, you know, stolen child of other planets that Thanos had. I'm not a huge fan of Zoe Saldana and the fact that literally it's not the same character from the first movie and stuff. And, you know, the little, you know, little like bug alien lady, like she's sometimes annoying. Then, of course, I like Bradley Cooper. He's one of my favorite actors. So, of course, I like that this whole plot was centered around his origin story. Because if you did an origin story about Groot, who cares about, like, a plant? No offense. You know, and all Vin Diesel does is just say, I'm Groot. You know, the talking Russian dog is interesting. The son of Michael Rooker's character is interesting to have on there. But, obviously, they've already done, you know, the two other aliens do the Thanos and seeing where they come from. Batista's character is interesting, but it's not interesting enough to make a whole movie out of him. We already did the whole Chris Pratt's father thing in the second one. So they did a good job of making this all about this guy who sees how bad Earth is, and he goes, I want to fix it, so I'm going to experiment on animals. I'm going to experiment on humans until I find the perfect thing. And that's how they get Rocket Raccoon's character and stuff. And it was a good movie about him. They had Will Poulter in the movie, and he's also someone who's been made by other creatures as well. I like that Nico Santos and a few other people were working for the bad guy who, you know, face is like, looks weird like Skeletor. And then you get like the fact that Sylvester Stallone's in the movie, and that, for me, Nathan Fillion had a cameo, and I'm a huge fan of his for his live action and his voice acting from The Rookie, etc., and Firefly. And then, because he was in the Suicide Squad 2, so he's been in a DC movie now and a Marvel movie. And then Michael Rosenbaum, who's played Lex Luthor and Flash in various DC projects, is a part of Sylvester Stallone's crew, and that's cool also. And I felt like this was a very good ending to the movie, where it wrapped up a lot of loose ends with a lot of the characters in the movie, especially Chris Pratt's character, and got, you know, things were settled for Rocket Raccoon, and the two sisters had their things, and Batista has a purpose. Her name's Mantis, I don't remember. She had to go out on her own journey, which is fine, and, you know, it's a good thing. Because there has to be phases in these movies where, like that, the way that Marvel's doing it is, there's a new Captain America. You know, his friend, who is Bucky, has his own thing. Iron Man passed away. He left on the mantle to Spider-Man. You know, there's just certain characters that move on. Ant-Man's daughter now does things. Like, you have to move on from these characters. Black Panther's sister. So just the next wave of people in the DC thing, Marvel thing. So I don't know if any of these Guardians characters, including Chris Pratt, Star-Lord, because he is a big-time actor at this point, if it's going to be in anything moving forward. But, you know, that's not, you know, I don't make those decisions, but they had 2 post-credit scenes, and they say that he's going to show up, hopefully. So it's a good thing. And again, PG-13, so it's not gory, it's not inappropriate, it's nothing. It's definitely a movie that I will take to my father, who didn't really like the second movie, and I kind of liked it and love it. Say it's a good thing, we should watch the end of it. And the best thing about this franchise is, like, the music, you know, because he supposedly left Earth when he was 8, Chris Pratt, but he knew music of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s, but then they're playing 90s and 2000s movie, which somehow they had to have gotten a hold of it anytime they had to visit Earth in these, you know, these Avengers movies in some way, because I don't know how he got it, because they're all on the other side of the thing, and I like the idea. You don't have to protect Earth. You're out there protecting other planets who need help being protected. A little disappointed that when, you know, some of these Avengers movie ended, they said that Chris Hemsworth's Thor is going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. They announced that way before there was going to be a Thor number 4. Then they're like, yeah, never mind. We'll make Thor 4, and we'll have the Guardians in it for just 10 minutes. Now that I've watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Thor 4, I don't know if Thor's character would really fit into the Guardians of the Galaxy number 3, but I would have loved to have seen that. Then I watched Sweetwater, so that's a good one. Now I watched Sweetwater, where this Everett Osborne did a great job of playing the Nate Sweetwater Clifton, who was the first NBA player to sign an NBA contract. Bobby Portis had a cameo in the movie. Gary Clark had a cameo. And it was a good movie. I like sports movies. You're looking at someone who will try to watch every single sports movie, no matter what the the sport is. Biopics, anything. And I liked this. It was very good. I was falling asleep not because it was boring, because I'm just tired in life and from this current job that I have. But Eric Roberts, Richard Dreyfuss, Kevin Pollak, Jeremy Piven, Carrie Ullis, a lot of famous people are in this movie. Showing the league how it operated back then, all the owners, the coaches, how Kevin Pollak's character made the Harlem Globetrotters, and he was Jewish, and he understood how, blacks couldn't get into places because Jewish people couldn't get into places. Jeremy Piven, playing the coach, he understands it. And then the owner of the Knicks thing that Carly Ullis played, he's like Irish and all this other stuff. And not inappropriate. It's PG-13. It's a really good movie. I liked it. It's similar to watching 42 with Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier. I don't know if they're going to make a movie about Willie O'Reilly breaking the hockey barrier, but still, it was a good movie. I liked it. It wasn't too long. You learn a lot of things. And I would say you got to watch it. You learn a lot of things that you never think you would know. One of my critiques was the guy calling radio in the first game, like a color commentator, whoever that fat guy is. I then see him at the owner's meeting as an owner of a team or a coach of a team, but how's he then the color commentator? So a little bit confusing there, but yeah, overall, I really enjoyed Sweetwater. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, a little conflicted on the menu. Mommy Mafia was just really dumb. 13 Minutes was just horribly written despite a good cast. Last Survivor, the plot twist was just not a good plot twist. So if I'm going to tell you what to watch, it's going to be The Menu, Guardians of the Galaxy number 3, and Sweetwater. The other movies, you can put them on in the background and who cares. Thanks again for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews Observations, number 178. From the Red Table Block, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.